let's go. Day 1, I loaded in a new hardcore Minecraft world, and I bet you can guess which entity I unlocked first. After getting myself a wooden pickaxe, I killed the sheep closest to me, unlocked its identity, and became a sheep. Have you ever seen a sheep go mining before? How about a pig terrorizing cows? Or a cow mining iron? These were definitely all a first for me. As the sun began to set on day 1, I hid myself in a cave and began cooking up some food and smelting iron. I was so excited to unlock all the different identities that I could, so I crafted myself up an iron chestplate, got myself a shield, and headed back outside to collect as much food as I could. While running through the savannah, I almost fell into this ravine. I decided to go around, and I don't remember why I was so insistent on getting this pumpkin. On my way back down the hill, I got into a fight with these 2 zombies and unlocked my first hostile mob. It's so cool how it shows your armor and everything that you're holding. Now it was time for the first test. I slowly walked up to the spider, wondering if it was going to attack me, but it just looked right up at me like it was daytime. And after betraying his trust, I somewhat needlessly jumped over the ravine to unlock my next mob, the skeleton. And apparently if you attack mobs while you're close by to other mobs, they'll all start to attack you. And unfortunately, I was unable to unlock a creeper on day 1. With all these different mobs beginning to chase me, I ran to the hill from where I came, and it was a little too steep to parkour up, so with some quick thinking, I tried turning myself into a spider and I climbed to safety. Once I was on the other side of the ravine, I changed into a skeleton and everything stopped chasing me. But I did see some wooden planks down in the ravine, so I decided to take a leap of faith down into the water. And before the night of day 1 was over, I had already gotten my first diamond. Day 2 and 3, I continued to explore the mineshaft, gathering some different resources, and this whole time I am so glad that I was a skeleton, because there's a lot of different instances like this that probably would have got me killed. In addition to the much needed materials, I also ran into another creeper. Since I used the stone sword, it took a little too long, but after a while, I finally unlocked the creeper identity. On day 4, I made it back to the ravine and walked into the sunlight as a zombie. I was a little confused because I wasn't bursting into flames, but that was quickly fixed when I took off my helmet, so I transformed into a spider and climbed my way back to the surface. I spent the rest of day 4 and day 5 chopping down some dark oak trees before wandering aimlessly in the world. Day 6 was a day of exploration. I really liked being a spider because you can climb up walls and you can run pretty fast. Another thing that I never saw before that was absolutely terrifying is seeing a spider sprint. Just imagine if they chased you that fast. On day 7, I came across a desert village that had spawned right in between 2 different biomes. And you know how chickens can't really get hurt by fall damage? Well, when you're a chicken, you only get 2 hearts, but you can jump off just about everything and be safe. When I walked into the village, I was a little concerned that the mod messed up the villagers, but it turns out it was just kids playing outside. After looting their tower, I decided to try out the chicken jump again. Then I locked this rude villager inside and stole his identity. I definitely did not look suspicious. And while I was still a villager, I thought it would be a good idea to go and kill the iron golem. That way I wouldn't get in trouble, but then I figured I could become the iron golem and no one would even know that it disappeared. Being the iron golem is actually pretty awesome because you get double the hearts, and look how hilarious it is to run. But there is one downside. You can't really fit through doors. As the iron giant, I tried to make friends with this little kitty, but I pet it a little too hard and killed it. But it is super fun playing Minecraft as a cat, except for when you get in trouble for looting a village. From this perspective, the iron golems are absolutely terrifying. That night, I stole this guy's bed and fell fast asleep. The next day, I awoke to find that the village had a mineshaft of their own. After exploring some of it, I wanted to mine down to diamond level and get myself some diamond armor. But before I could, I ran into some more mineshaft and unlocked the infamous cave spider. This one I was not looking forward to unlocking because of its poison effect, which almost killed me. And then I spent the next several days mining for diamonds while collecting whatever other resources that I could find. And by day 12, I had enough diamonds for a full set of diamond armor. On day 13, I made it back up to the surface and decided to smelt all my ores and get all my stuff organized because I wasn't done exploring the world and I could only take with me as much as I could carry. And because I was going to leave some cobblestone behind to save time, I made a bunch of furnaces to smelt everything a little faster. Then that night, the villager actually offered up his bed, and then I realized I was actually still a zombie from my mining session. On the morning of day 14, I was thrust back into the wild by the villagers. They said it was because I stole all their food and valuables, but I think it's because I'm a shapeshifter. While wandering around this desert, I came across a few rabbits, and these were definitely one of the harder mobs to kill because they're harder to catch. And while it's adorable to jump around as a rabbit, you only get 1.5 hearts. So before going into this desert temple, I turned back into a human. Because my inventory was already kind of full, I just grabbed the gun gunpowder and the horse armor. As it became night, I found this husk, unlocked its identity, and then ran to this new village for safety. And can you imagine? They also did not want me stealing their food and valuables. So the next day, I began to search for a jungle that I could set up my base far away from any village. For the challenge, I had to kill this helpless turtle. There are just some mobs in Minecraft that you really don't like to kill, and turtles are definitely one of them. But they do have a good amount of hearts, and it's actually pretty cool swimming around as a turtle. And I think the turtle is the only mob that can breathe underwater and outside of water. But the fun was cut a little short when I had to unlock the drowned identity. After that, I transformed into a fish and found a buried treasure map. The map led me to a nearby beach that I spent way too long searching for buried treasure, and I actually never found the chest. And on this dreary day, I unlocked another mob that I really don't like killing. But this is arguably one of the best things about the mod. I was finally able to fly. I flew up and I spotted a jungle that was actually really close by. Luckily, I didn't die when I had to sting this parrot. There's something so satisfying about flying around the jungle as a parrot. Although it might just be that I found a jungle temple. I knew that it would be dark inside, so I decided to turn myself into a zombie so I wouldn't be attacked. I also made myself some torches, and when I made it down to the bottom room, I knew that I would run across some traps. I carefully tried to cut both the tripwires, but that just made the trap go off and hurt me both times. After getting the loot, I tried to solve the puzzle, but I think I accidentally disarmed it. So I just dug until I found the treasure. And when I went back outside, phantoms swooped down and tried to attack me. I finally got to test out the bow that I made. Then I transformed into a bee and had this cool aerial battle. And I flew down to a tree and transformed into a phantom. On the morning of day 20, you'll never guess what happened. Okay, you probably did guess. I don't know why I thought I'd be safe organizing all my things outside, but I quickly realized that it was a mistake when a creeper came up right behind me and almost killed me. So for the time being, I decided to head back into the jungle temple and make that place my home. After finally being able to unload all my stuff into a chest, I placed down all my furnaces, closed off all the windows with iron bars, and got to work lighting up the place and clearing out the bottom floor. Then that night, I wanted to truly see what it meant to play as a phantom. I swooped down and killed some sheep until I had enough wool for a bed. I spent day 21 to 25 collecting a lot of jungle wood for a build, as well as a lot of jungle leaves and vines. While I was out, I ran into an ocelot and had a lot of fun parkouring around the treetops. And in a nearby river, I found some salmon and again got scared when I only had 1.5 hearts. On day 26, I found a ruined nether portal, tried my best to stop a forest fire, and got 3 blocks of gold. Close by was a bamboo forest, and when I saw it, I knew what I would have to do. How did Mojang even get the sound of a panda dying? I actually did enjoy the life of a panda. I collected some seeds and tried to make a bird friend, and when that failed, I just ate my troubles away. The next day, I made it back to my base, added a place for storage to the bottom floor, made myself a diamond sword, and got some sleep as a bee. It was so cute, and I knew that I needed to rest because I had a big day of building tomorrow. On day 28, I grabbed all the materials that I thought I'd need and got to work building this cool canopy that you can only get to if you can fly. I had just about finished the base of the build when I ran out of wood. So I spent the next 2 days chopping down trees, and upon my return, I noticed that I already had a visitor in the middle of the jungle and far away from any civilization. And before I could even talk to him, he disappeared, and I found these leads. I figured I could unlock the wandering trader identity, but it was a little too late to become a llama. I was a little confused where the wandering villager went, so I started looking around, and then I realized that he turned invisible because it was now nighttime. So after chasing around his particle effects for a while, I finally killed him and unlocked one of the most disliked mobs in Minecraft. I never realized how many mobs were so elusive until I attempted this challenge. While spending the next few days mining, I came across a bat and realized it was the best mob to go mining as. You always have night vision, so you don't need any torches. You can easily spot things underground like mine shafts, and you can't die from fall damage or from falling into lava. Unfortunately though, you do only have 3 hearts. I spent the next few days mining for diamonds, and they look so much more impressive when you're mining as a bat. As the sun began to rise on day 37, I came out of the mine and got this really pretty view of the jungle because I had night vision. Then I turned back into a human to see what it looked like normally. I knew this day was going to be pretty busy and that I would need the right tools for the job, so I made myself a diamond shovel and another diamond pickaxe because mine was about to break. I needed a few more types of materials to finish my build, one of which was a blue dye, so I thought it would look pretty cool collecting blue flowers as a bee. I also unlocked another animal that I don't like killing, although it was pretty hilarious going into this nearby village as a horse and eating all of their hay. The villagers were probably pretty confused when my appetite wasn't sated and I had to go eat sand. As the sun began to set, I transformed back into a bee and flew over to collect some dirt. And this was also the night I accidentally picked a fight with an enderman, and let's just say the other monsters were not too happy about about it. So I just flew back to the safety of my isolated jungle base and had a little dance party as an Enderman. Day 38 and 39, I spent finishing the top part of my base and had an epic resort where I could live out the rest of my days as an exiled shapeshifter. I could fly around or run around and do whatever I pleased. Since my powers seemed pretty magical, I wanted to build a few floating islands. I turned the sand into glass and used the blue flowers to turn the glass blue, and used it to make it look like there was magic energy holding up the floating islands around my base. That night, I went back underground to this underwater ravine where I struggled to get some obsidian for a nether portal. On day 41, I built my nether portal, turned into a phantom, and decided to go through as a phantom because I would have a lot of hearts and I would be considered a hostile mob and hopefully would not be attacked. I spawned into a relatively safe biome and took on the first ghast that I saw. Then I struggled to capture a zombified piglin so that way I could kill him with hopefully not getting any other mobs mad. And right when I thought I had him, he escaped. So I caught and killed his friend, as well as a piglin that had strayed a little too far from his pack. I tried my best to kill them in seclusion so that way their friends wouldn't get mad at me, but everything was fine once I actually turned into a piglin. And look at my floppy ears. And it's even funnier as a zombified piglin. While I was in the nether, I figured I might as well level up by collecting quartz and gold. After spending many days mining, I came across a crimson forest and tried to kill a hoglin, but they're not the smartest mobs, are they? So unfortunately I had to kill a baby hoglin, which are actually kinda cute. And right nearby, I found a nether fortress where I could test out my new hoglin identity. And yes, they also have flappy ears. While I was over lava, I spotted some striders, and I knew I had to kill another lovable mob. But before risking it all and jumping into lava, I decided to land and turn into a strider on the ground. Then I made my way to the lava and slowly inched my way in, and you can actually stride on top of the lava. I had a ton of fun goofing off as a strider and luring a bunch of piglins into the lava. I also tried to see if I could ride on top of another strider like the little babies do, but I couldn't. I think I need a saddle for that. So I headed back to the overworld and turned all my gold nuggets into gold ingots. And then I grabbed some cobblestone and headed back to the nether because I realized I would need to kill a zombified hoglin. I had one chase me all the way back to my nether portal just to realize that they're afraid of light. So I went and got some minecart stuff, got it trapped in a minecart, and I figured the best way to get the hoglin through the portal was by pushing it as another hoglin. But when it got up to the portal, it got stuck in the wall and started to suffocate. I started to panic as I watched this hoglin about to die. I put so much effort into bringing this hoglin over to my portal for it just to suffocate in the wall, and after wiping away my tears, I went and got another hoglin, and this time I made sure that it was in the middle of the portal and it was blocked in and was unable to escape. Then I carefully removed the minecart and it went through the portal. Now that part was well thought through, but then when I went through the portal, I realized I had no plan for when it actually got into the overworld. It quickly transformed and started chasing me in circles around the room until I finally unlocked another mob, and now I could be a hoglin and a zombified hoglin in the overworld. On day 50, I tested out flying around during the day as a phantom, and to my surprise, I wasn't catching on fire. So I spent day 50 and 51 flying around killing chickens for arrows and cows for leather. And I also got a good amount of food out of it too. On day 52, I wanted to go mining again, and I figured if I went mining under a mountain, then I would have a pretty good chance at killing and unlocking the silverfish. There are some really pretty landscapes. I came across some mountains with a floating island that would have been kind of cool to build on, but I had two goals that I had to focus on: getting diamonds and unlocking the silverfish. I did manage to find some diamonds, but when I actually found a silverfish, it spawned and then just kind of poofed away before I could actually kill it. But luckily, pretty soon after that, I was able to find another silverfish and add it to the list of entities that I could shapeshift into. And something that's pretty interesting that you might want to know is that silverfish actually can't see in the dark. On day 57, I made it home and began to smelt up all my things when I realized that my helmet was about to break. It turns out that it was actually protecting me from the sun because that whole time I was flying around as a phantom. So I had to make myself up a new one. On day 58, I realized that there were still a lot of entities that I would have to unlock. So I had to go on an adventure and explore the world to find all these different mobs. In my travels, I came across a swamp that I knew I could find slime in at night. Swamps always creep me out, so I made sure that I was a bee so that way I could easily fly away if anything went wrong. And while I was waiting for it to get dark, I decided to collect some of these blue flowers because I thought they'd look nice in my base. And once it was dark enough, I spotted my first slime. But as I began to attack it, I started taking damage, which was a little concerning because as a bee, I only had 5 hearts. I soon realized that there was just a skeleton behind the slime, so I just drew the slime away and finally killed one. And while I was at it, I figured I might as well collect all the slime that I could. I didn't see a witch hut nearby, but I did manage to come across a witch. And once I killed her, I wanted to try out my 2 new mobs. mobs. But when I turned into a slime, I found out that you only get half of a heart. If any mob hit me, this world would be over before I could finish recording my 100 days. So I quickly turned into a witch and began eating to get my hearts back up. And look how hilarious this is. My nose perked up when I went to go eat. Then it was back to exploring and I came across this cool spruce forest. And while flying through it, I spotted this orange little creature. Foxes are another mob that are really hard to kill. And like the parrot in the jungle, playing as a fox in its own biome felt like a little mini game. And when I got to the water, I realized whatever item that you hold in your hand, the fox holds in its mouth. It was so cute. I also unlocked the wolf, but I was exiled by my pack, just like the villagers. Although I did manage to have some fun hunting down some sheep. Then I came across this nearby village and turned into a fox to cleverly loot all that they had. On day 62, just like Emperor Cusco, I found out what it was like to be a llama. On day 63, I finally found a donkey, and that made me want to see what was faster, a donkey or a horse. But I think you go about the same speed as both. Day 64, I found a coral reef, and I almost got killed because I forgot that dolphins can't breathe underwater. I was a little distracted because whatever item that you hold in your hand, it looks like the dolphin's pushing with his nose. Dolphins make it look so easy, but it's actually really hard to survive as a dolphin. I could barely hunt fish, and I almost suffocated several times. After unlocking the tropical fish, I turned into a turtle so that way I could hunt a pufferfish without dying. And I'm pretty sure that the pufferfish is the cutest mob that you can be in Minecraft. Swimming around in the coral reef, I almost didn't mind only having 1.5 hearts until I changed back into a turtle and I realized how low my health actually was. On day 65, I was reminded that ice spikes was an actual biome. While it looks really beautiful, I was only scouring over this icy tundra for one reason: to hunt a polar bear. And halfway through the fight, I thought it would be pretty cool to see a panda fight a polar bear. And not before too long, I was an ice bear chasing around a rabbit. I had definitely wandered really far away from my base, but luckily, I saved the coordinates. So I spent the next 2 days flying on home. On day 68, I had to deal with something that was more taxing than all my goals combined: dealing with villagers. I trapped the ones I needed in their houses and began selling all the wood and wheat that I had. Villagers are so expensive before you zombify them and cure them. I thought that it'd be easier to just buy bookshelves instead of killing a bunch of cows and collecting a bunch of sugarcane, but I had to collect so many resources that after several days of trading, crafting my own bookshelves didn't seem like too much of a problem. Once I had 15 bookshelves, I wanted to make sure that I had looting 3 on my sword. So I trapped this guy, but then I realized that there might be a chance of me getting looting 3 on my sword from the enchantment table. So I took some time to enchant all my gear, and when I enchanted my diamond sword, no looting 3. I headed back to the village, and this guy was the most stubborn villager I ever had to deal with. He did offer a lot of good trades, but I really wanted looting 3 to make getting wither skulls a lot easier. And after what seemed like an eternity, I finally got looting 3. With the leftover emeralds, I went to go buy some arrows and apples, but all the farmers got killed during the night when I was trying to get looting 3. On day 77, I headed back into the nether to finally explore the nether fortress I found earlier and hunt down some wither skeletons and blazes. Phantoms would be really cool to have in the nether, but I would be so worried about getting knocked off into the lava. Not before too long, I shapeshift into a blaze. I think this is now my favorite mob to be, but also wither skeletons look really cool with armor. As an enderman or a wither skeleton, you're 3 blocks tall, but you still have the same size arms, so I felt a little bit like a dinosaur. I spent the next several days as a blaze, looting the nether fortress and hunting down every wither skeleton that I could find. On day 84, I returned back to the overworld, and I've never seen a blaze out of the nether before, so I had no idea what would happen. As a blaze, you get full hearts, you're 2 blocks tall as normal, you don't take any damage in the sun, and you can fly. So the blaze was definitely my favorite mob, but there is one weakness that we'll find out later in this video. Oh yeah, the rest of day 84, I found another village and looted all the wheat. I also found a farmer to sell me apples, but it was getting nighttime, so I turned into a zombie again, and this guy was nice enough to lend me his house to sleep in. On the morning of day 85, I bought a whole stack of apples and headed back to my base where I crafted up a few extra golden apples, and then I found a nice remote location in the jungle to spawn in the wither. Since I had some golden apples and I could fly around, I thought that this would be really easy, but the wither was so fast and I forgot I didn't have any power enchantment on my bow. He was on my tail the entire battle, so to heal up I had to fly under the trees and hope that he wouldn't see me. And after 3 of some of the most stressful minutes, I finally defeated and unlocked the wither. I found a wither rose on the ground and the nether star in the water. If you ever play this mod with friends, a great prank would be turning into the wither and flying right towards their base. Imagine how terrifying that would be. be. That night, to de-stress, I just organized some of my things and planted this wither rose on one of my floating islands. Day 86 and 7, I captured 3 piglins and made them trade with me. Once I had enough ender pearls, I spent the rest of my gold on making golden apples to fight the dragon. Then I crafted up some eyes of ender, and since I got some obsidian from the trades, I made myself a beacon. For now, I placed the beacon on one of my floating islands, and I thought it'd be pretty cool for each island to hold a trophy. I knew that I would soon face the dragon, but I still needed to unlock one more entity. So on day 88, I set out to find one more mob to unlock. After flying for a long time, I came across a mushroom island that was thousands of blocks away from my base. After vibing a little bit as a mushroom cow, I knew I still had a dangerous adventure ahead of me. So I turned back into a blaze and headed back to my base to prepare for the Ender Dragon fight. I spent day 92 and 93 in search for a stronghold. I came across this ship that was really easy to loot and realized the blaze's only weakness. Remember when I talked about that earlier? But luckily I'm a shapeshifter, so I can just turn into a water mob to go and get my Eyes of Ender. The stronghold turned out to be not too far away from there. The Eyes of Ender led me to a little island in the middle of the ocean, and I was a little worried I'd have to dig underwater until I realized that the stronghold had spawned in the ocean. I turned back into a turtle and headed down into the water and swam over to what seemed to be the biggest room with a little opening. When I saw iron bars, I knew I was in the right place. I made my way in, crafted up all the Eyes of Ender that I would need to light the portal, but before doing that, I decided to spend the next 2 days searching through the dungeon. It was so cool how a lot of the dead ends were just walls of water, so you could just turn a corner and end up in the ocean, as well as swim from room to room. So I thought the best mob to search through the dungeon as would be a drowned. To be honest, there wasn't a lot of good loot in this stronghold, but the fact that it was underwater made up for it. On day 96, I lit the portal, and as a blaze, I jumped through. I was gonna use a blaze just like how I fought the wither with, but then I realized I could actually be the wither. I would have double the hearts, and the fight would probably look a lot cooler. Let's watch. After a fierce battle, I finally vanquished the Ender Dragon. Once I got the egg, I transformed into the Ender Dragon and took to the skies. This video had a lot of firsts for me, and here was another. Instead of going through the gateway, I flew from the main island to search for an end city. I honestly didn't even know if it was possible, but after about a minute of flying, I began to see some islands rendering in the distance. On day 97, I finally came across my first end city. But as the dragon, I couldn't really reach anything, so I had to turn back into a blaze. I wanted to get some shulker shells, so I ended up unlocking a bonus entity. I figured out what it was like to be a shulker. After looting one more end city, I turned into a bee and went searching for a gateway. I didn't have to crouch or anything, I just flew right in, turned back into a human, and jumped into the portal to go back home. As the sun set on day 100, I placed the dragon egg on another trophy island, having survived 100 days as a shapeshifter. I want